having priests is a lesser priority to these other goods. Or we just naively assumed we could shoehorn in these other doctrines and priorities and not have it affect the vitality and succession.
It's so, okay, you're not beating the weird allegations, man. Like, this is such weirdo shit, right? It's so weird. Like, why is it so important that it's men? Why? Like, what? A girl can't do the job just as well? F you then. You're sexist. You're a piece of shit. Okay, so for a long time in the church, there has been a lot of sexism. Not many people know about this, mind you. Lots of sexism rampant in the church. You know, it's not great. It's a little cringe, in my opinion. Brian Holdsworth here is not helping. He thinks that female altar servers are a big problem. I forget who the altar servers are, like the little kids who like sit by the priest and like do the bread and wine and shit, right? 'Cause I used to be one. I was like an altar boy. Yeah. So apparently we're now dogging on children and why it's bad for child girls to take on the role of what is exclusively meant for young boys, which, you know, in the Catholic Church is, you know, very good about their young boys. So, you know, I'm interested in seeing what his opinion on this is.
The Catholic Church is the longest
Is he missing a button? Nope, all buttons are intact. Let's give him a round of applause, everybody. All buttons are intact. Beautiful. Good job, man.
Standing contiguous institution in all of human history, which has to raise questions like, how has it managed to do this? It must either be the most brilliantly organized institution in the world, or there must be some other extremely powerful insight helping it along, keeping it alive. And
yeah, totally, man. It's not like by force, by brute force, right? I'm sure other religions, like before Christianity is relatively young, guys. It's pretty young. Wait, he said it's like
longest institution in all of human history.
Is that okay? Is that true? The Catholic Church is the oldest institution in the Western world. Can trace its history back almost 2,000 years. Okay. There are other religions like Buddhism that are much older. What? Let's ask Reddit. The Roman Catholic Church is the Greek Orthodox Church. I don't know if Judaism has a similar institution or if there's any other non-religious institution that's older. Iceland's Alþingi was established in 930. It's apparently the world's oldest parliament, but not the oldest institution per se. The Armenian Church was the first state-recognized church, but there was one church in Asia Minor, now Turkey, which is said to have been founded slightly before the death of Jesus. Depends how you define it, really. That's what I thought. It seems like a very loose definition they're using. It's not the oldest company in the world, but I've always found the history of... Okay, talking about something else. Oldest companies. I don't know. It doesn't really matter anyway.
Which has to raise questions like, how has it managed to do this? It must either be the most brilliantly organized institution in the world, or there must be some other extremely powerful insight helping it along, keeping it alive, and preserving it from the kinds of adversities that have ended far.
The sweet, tender love between a Catholic priest and his altar boy.
Far more formidable societies and organizations of the past. And in my limited exposure, but also from lessons of history,
that's what keeps it alive, baby.
What couldn't be more obvious is that the church cannot take credit for its longevity because it is a brilliantly governed organization or institution. Hilaire Belloc once famously said, "A proof of the divine origins of the Catholic Church might be found in the fact that no merely human institution conducted with such knavish imbecility would have lasted a fortnight."
What?
In fact, when the church prioritizes its institutional dimensions and seeks to govern itself like any other worldly institution, that's exactly when its institutional prosperity...
Sorry, I am getting a little bit tired. I'm starting to lose a little focus. A proof of the divine origins of the Catholic Church might be found in the fact that no merely human institution conducted with such knavish imbecility would have lasted a fortnight. I don't know. I just feel like he's pumping up the church for no reason. Like, dinosaurs lasted, like, billions of years, and they were pretty stupid. So, you know, I feel like dude is way boring and is entirely word salad. Yeah, he's been pretty boring so far.
When the church prioritizes its institutional dimensions and seeks to govern itself like any other worldly institution, that's exactly when its institutional prosperity seems to suffer the most. And this is dramatic.
And that's why we have to be as against modern day ideals like gender equality as possible. right? Like the longevity of your institution doesn't say anything about how good it is or how necessary it is. It just means it was there for a really long time. Okay, congratulations. Who gives a shit?
Dramatically apparent on the question of altar servers. Historically, only males were allowed to serve in various liturgical functions at Mass, or what we just now commonly call altar servers. This was a practice that had endured for as long as the church has had.
Okay, also I want to say, how the fuck did this help with the longevity? Like, even if we see to you that, yes, the Catholic Church is the longest standing human institution in the entire world in all of history, how does this help? Like, you're just pointing at different facts. They're completely not related.
Altar servers.
That's a Mott and Bailey, right?
Which again, when an institution or society defies all the odds by enduring longer than any of its rivals or its peers, you'd think its long-standing practices would be treated
female altar servers are bringing the downfall of the churches.
But most recently in the church's history, in that particular segment of history we happen to be living through right now, this was a practice that had become seen as like unjust and discriminatory, not because of something within our tradition, but because of something from without, namely the spirit and practices of the modern world.
Totally, dude.
Which obviously doesn't have this same record of longevity.
It's not our fault people are falling out of love with the church for some reason. I mean, this video is entirely about, female altar servers being a huge problem. But, like, who's to say, really, why people don't like us, right?
In fact, it seems like nothing in the modern world lasts for very long. So I think it's worth taking a bit of
That's because of capitalism. Wow, what do you know? Here we go again, folks. Ready? So nothing lasts very long. If you're speaking in the most literal sense, because of built-in obsolescence, okay? They break shit on purpose. They built it faulty on purpose so that it'll break and you'll buy more of it. Capitalism.
And so the logic behind this shift in the church, and the first place to start should be
that was very literal,
asking the very
interpretation,
obvious question: why do we have altar servers?
Had to get it in there.
If you were thinking in merely institutional terms, you might say to perform the work on the altar. They assist the priest to perform his liturgical functions, and girls can do that just as well as boys, so any form of discrimination on that count is obviously unjust.
He's going to talk about, like, the soul and how they represent God or some shit. Like, it's going to be real bullshit.
But that is emphatically not why we have altar servers. The priest's actions and functions on the altar are not so complicated that the distinctive skills and knowledge of 12-year-old boys and girls are necessary to rescue him from these complexities. The priest is more than capable of celebrating Mass by himself, and if necessary, he does sometimes. So why bother having adolescent altar servers assisting in the sanctuary? It isn't because it's so demanding that he can't do it himself, it's because
why's it gotta be adolescents too? That's kind of weird, huh? I mean, has anybody actually ever thought that maybe it's a little weird that, like, it has to be a kid, you know? Let's get an adult to do it. It is, like, literally labor. Like, let's get an adult to do that work. Because usually the altar boys are forced to do it. Like, it's not like they want to. I didn't want to do it. I hated being an altar boy. It sucks. You gotta put on that stupid gown. Like, it's just cult shit. Like, it sucks being an altar boy. Nobody actually wants to do that shit.
It gives young people intimate exposure to the most profound work of priests in their vocation so that they might consider it for themselves.
Okay, so the argument is that altar boys are observing what the priests do so that they themselves can become priests. I think that women should be allowed to be priests. If women are not allowed to be priests in your church, then your church is sexist and it should be shut down. You should have to pay taxes. Any church, that, at the very least, you should have to pay taxes. Any institution that promotes sexism, at the very minimum, should be paying taxes.
Because at the end of the day, unless we're finding ways to encourage young men to consider becoming priests, there is no future for the Catholic Church. And what better way of exposing young men to this vocation and the graces that come with it than by giving them the kind of work exposure that altar serving affords? Not
girl power will slay the Catholic Church. You heard it here first, folks.
To mention the rare opportunities to get a behind-the-scenes...
Intimate was a bad choice of word? Well, from him, yeah.
And the graces that come with it, than by giving them the kind of work exposure that altar serving affords. Not to mention the rare opportunities to get a behind-the-scenes look at the work and life of the priests that they assist. And this is just so obviously how most careers are chosen. Most people choose their careers because they had some exposure to a person in that line of work, or because they had some work experience themselves in that line of work.
Why can't girls be
And I can
priests
share
then?
both anecdotally and statistically how this principle tends to bear out. First,
Hold on 1 second. Okay.
anecdotally, my oldest son started altar serving a couple years ago, and almost immediately after he became comfortable in that role, he started saying that he wanted to become a priest when he grows up. Now, a couple years later, he's still persisting in that intention. Prior to altar serving, that wasn't really on his radar as we could tell, even though we would suggest it to him whenever the conversation about his future would come up. His experience of being up there on the altar, taking part in something that matters to him, performing a task that is profound with great pride and diligence, that experience has stirred up his heart to want to serve in this way more fully, or as fully as possible, as an ordained priest. But
This
if
sounds
his
really
place had been
weird.
taken by a girl, or just as often a middle-aged or elderly woman,
God forbid.
that
Oh,
discernment likely
no.
wouldn't have happened. And the same is true for his peers. He serves alongside an
Not a girl.
impressive cast of boys and men who have all likely given far more space for the priesthood in their vocational discernment than they otherwise would have if the church didn't use this mechanism to expose them to their priestly or to the priestly vocation.
This is
if
so
half
boring.
or more of that cast or the positions of altar serving in our parish was composed of females, that would have, if not more, the number of young men discerning the priesthood in our community. And statistically, this is undeniable. If we're going to
What?
wring our hands about a vocational crisis in the church, then this is the test of how serious we are about fixing this problem.
Yeah, fix the problem by letting women do the job. Just let women do the job. Like, what? Let the girls in. What?
Because studies have shown that experienced altar serving directly correlates to priestly vocations. Here in Canada, where I live, the Benedict XVI Institute recently released a comprehensive study about vocations in Canada, which will yield similar results in the United States. In surveys they conducted with recently ordained priests, they asked them about ways they were involved in the parish prior to joining the seminary, and the number one thing they reported as influential in their discernment was altar serving. Most priests surveyed.
Okay, so then let the girls become priests. Boom, done. That fixes the problem. Does it not? Like, we're operating under the assumption here that you have to be male to be a priest. Why? I knew I heard Canadian. Oh, gotcha. He is Canadian. It doesn't matter.
Served as altar servers prior to becoming priests and identify it as one of the things that influence their discernment. And we shouldn't need comprehensive research to tell us that. Some things are just self-evident unless we're too blinded by some alternative theory
Why is it
or
self-evident?
ideology, which sadly does seem to be a bit of our problem. We've taken a list of goods and priorities for the church, one of which is obviously having priests, but then we allowed others to creep in from the outside, from other creeds and ideologies
in.
like equality and inclusion,
Wait, what?
or trying to be
Oh, God forbid, right? Like, what do you mean equality and inclusion? Wasn't Jesus all about, like, come as you are and including people and shit? Like, what? What? Your church, man. Your church sounds like shit.
more appealing to modern sensibilities. And we've said, you know what? Having priests is a lesser priority to these other goods. Or we
I
just
agree.
naively assumed we could
Fuck the priests.
shoehorn in these other doctrines and priorities and not have it affect the vitality and succession
It's so, okay, you're not beating the weird allegations, man. Like, this is such weirdo shit, right? It's so weird. Like, why is it so important that it's men? Why? Like, what? A girl can't do the job just as well? F you then. You're sexist. You're a piece of shit.
of the church's clergy. Well, we've been doing it for long enough now that the data is coming in, and it's not encouraging. It's kind of scary, actually. There aren't enough seminarians to replace the current crop of
L.
priests, which
Posting
is
your
already
Ls.
a desperately low number. But speaking of these other priorities, are they even goods worthy of sacrificing? Other goods that the church has relied upon for millennia? When girls have something that is exclusively their own, do we look at that and say, what an injustice? What about
Like what?
diversity? What about inclusion?
Like what? Like what? When girls have something of their own, what have you let them have? What do girls get? I'd love to know.
Do we say these female-only spaces need to be confiscated and opened up to the boys?
Oh boy. Are we gonna go into a trans panic? Ooh, come on.
I hope the answer is no. Usually, if I see something that is exclusively reserved for girls, I find it easy to celebrate.
So we're comparing now having gendered restrooms to having a gendered role in the church. First of all, I don't even believe in gendered restrooms. I think just collapse them all. I don't give a and make them all single person. Like I don't want to be pissing like with 1 inch of steel separating me from the person next to me who's also pissing. Like I'd rather not do that, okay? I hate pissing in public. First of all. And second of all, this is a horrific comparison. This is such a stupid comparison because men also have their own restroom. First of all. Well, sorry, I'm saying first of all a lot. But like men also have their own restroom. Okay, they're equal facilities. You do not have an equal role for women in the church. An equal role to men. I think he's talking about nuns. Is he talking? Well, I don't care. Like men should be allowed to be nuns too. Why can't they be nuns?
Celebrate the fact that it exists.
I was being uncharitable, but but he said female spaces, so I figured that he, like, usually when people say that, they're talking about girls' locker rooms and shit.
But when boys have something all their own, our first instinct as a society seems to be to take
Male
it away
nuns,
from
where
them
are you at?
and
Male
open it up to
nuns.
girls as well in the name of diversity and inclusion.
See?
We just saw
Girls can join the Boy Scouts now. Yeah, who gives a why do you care? It's so weird.
this happen actually with the Boy Scouts. But the Girl Guides haven't come under that kind of pressure, and they are still exclusive.
No, Girl Scouts have no plans to admit boys into the organization. Oh, he's correct on this one. Research shows that a girl learns best in an all-girl, girl-led, and girl-friendly environment. Disgusting. What research are they referring to? Of course, no sources cited or anything. Maybe they'd be good at contact too. Just to ask, about their research. It'd be interesting. He was correct though. Apparently, Girl Scouts are not allowing boys to join. Cringe and disgusting.
Exclusively reserved for girls. This appetite for confiscating any male-only spaces while preserving female-only spaces is obviously not about justice or equality, but the actual worst forms of discrimination that these measures are supposedly fighting against. But wherever it comes from, it's
the worst forms. It's like Jim Crow, but for men, guys.
Not from within the church's
crazy
tradition,
out here.
but pressing in from the outside. It's the conventions of the modern world that prevail in institutions like in corporations. But the church isn't an institution, and the more it acts like one, the more...
Wait, didn't he say at the beginning that it's the longest standing institution? He said that at like the very beginning. We're at 8:36.
The Catholic Church is the longest standing contiguous institution in
Okay.
or it will suffer the fate of all former human institutions, which is ultimately demise.
I mean, I thought it was... Did he say human institution?
Like in corporations. But the church isn't an institution, and the
No, see, he just said an institution.
more it acts like one, the more it will suffer the fate of all former human institutions,
Longest standing
which is ultimately
institution.
demise.
According to you, it's not
But again,
an institution.
the church isn't an institution. The church is a glimpse or a foreshadowing of God's kingdom here on earth. Jesus, he didn't say the institution of God or the bureaucracy of God is at hand. He said the kingdom of God.
I'm sorry, I know this seems a little bit pedantic, but that is a glaring inconsistency in his video. That is unacceptable in with how professionally he presents his shit. You can't mix up words like that, man. Longest standing institution at the very beginning. It's the first words you say, the first sentence. Dipshit.
God is at hand. And what is a kingdom? A kingdom is a hierarchy. And a hierarchy, bureaucracy of God is at hand. He said the kingdom of God is at hand. And what is a kingdom? A kingdom is a hierarchy. And a hierarchy distinguishes and even discriminates between its members. And that's a good thing when done justly. Discrimination is such a taboo word, but all it means...
Wait, did he just say discrimination is good?
Distinguishes and even discriminates between its members. And that's a good thing.
There you go. He said discrimination is good. Clip it. He just said discrimination is a good thing. What do we discriminate next, buddy? We discriminate men versus women. How about we discriminate white and black people? There you go. That was also justified by your sorry, it's not an institution, except it is when it's convenient for you, right? Right, buddy? So, what's next on the discrimination list? I'm just wondering. I'm just curious. Just curious.
Unjustly. Discrimination is such a taboo word, but all it means is drawing distinctions between things that are different. And guess
This is why I discriminate against Christians sometimes.
what? Men and women are different. To refuse to discriminate
Wow. Nobody ever said that they're not, dipshit.
them in appropriate ways is to impose an unjust standard whereby we impose these
White people and black people are also different. Should we discriminate between the two? I'd love to know.
expectations on women and men to exhibit strengths and behaviors that don't come naturally to them. The church is much more like God's natural
This is biological essentialism. This is like really bad.
created order,
It's
which
really
also
bad.
discriminates against its members. There are experiences and abilities that God specifically ordained exclusively for women and for men. For example, only women can become
Disgusting.
pregnant
He's
and
even
give
worse
birth,
than I thought.
and only men can tell dad jokes.
All right, you guys, how was
Only women can become pregnant and give birth. That's not true. There's trans men.
And give birth, and only men can tell dad jokes.
All right, you guys, how was everything?
Oh, come on. You can't. Okay. That guy's wholesome as shit. You can't just use his. Okay. This is not a transformative. This is not transformative. He could literally call copyright on this. I don't think he'd agree with this clip being used this way.
Can't you tell? I hated it.
So in
Wholesome clip.
conventional
Hate this
institutions,
guy.
we might be able to create an artificial order in which the distinctions between men and women seem irrelevant, but the church's mission isn't here to establish artificial environments that ignore God's created order. God created men and women with different strengths and weaknesses, and it's up to us, those of us who are devoted to following God,
No female altar girls. Female altar girls are going to hell.
and to
You go
discovering
to
his
hell.
plan
Go-
for our
go-
lives,
goodbye.
to honor and live within those distinctions. God's kingdom is far more like a family than it is like Walmart.
A family in which you eternally suffer if you do anything wrong, like be a girl.
And that's a
be
good
priest at the same
thing.
time.
If you
can't
can
do that.
admit that the priesthood should be reserved for men only, then admitting that the kind of work experience, training, and mentorship that altar serving affords in the service of that
I don't admit that. Women should be allowed to be priests too, you
vocation
sexist.
should also
Disgusting.
be male only. That should be obvious. The only reason you'd want to diversify that practice within the church is if your loyalties lie more so with doctrines of the world, like absolute equality.
The entirety of his argument relies upon this is God's will. They're truly and well and truly insane. They're just insane pieces of shit. I don't know how else to put it.
Totalitarianism than they do with the good of the church. Or you're ignoring how necessary this practice is to the benefit of priestly vocations. Neither of those reasons seem to be very good to me. The benefits of taking altar serving away from boys exclusively, as far as I can tell, are negligible, if any at all, for the church. It might help us. Very
Sorry.
good to me. The benefits of taking altar serving away from boys exclusively, as far as I can tell, are negligible, if any at all, for the church.
Of taking altar serving away from boys exclusively. Did he mean girls? I think he meant girls, right? And the problem with it is that you're discriminating based on inborn characteristics, based on sex. That's weird, man. This is why people don't like church anymore. You are falling apart because of your own folly, okay? This is not happening. Like, this is the reason that your churches are falling apart, man. Excuse me. It's because the world's changing and getting better, and you're falling behind. Most people these days look at shit like this and think, gee, that's pretty weird, dude. That's pretty weird. Maybe I don't want to go to church. Maybe I don't want to be Christian anymore. You know, if they're just doing blatant sexism like this, it's God's will to be sexist. Yeah. Like, it's gross. It's weird. So of course people don't want to be around you or your stupid churches.
Church. It might help us fit in with the modern
glad that
world a
it's
little
falling
more.
apart. I
but
hope it falls apart
let's
faster.
be honest here. For people who think discrimination is wrong according to these categories, throwing altar servers under the bus to appease their outrage isn't going to distract.
What is the female equivalent to an altar server or a priest? A nun? No, it's not. Nuns don't do sermons, okay? Women go into the women's bathroom to piss. Men go into the men's bathroom to piss. Boys do altar serving to become priests. Girls do blank to become blank. If they don't serve equal purposes, you can't even claim that they're separate but equal. Not even that. You can't do that, okay? Christianity is one of the few things worse than me. Yeah, I already read that. He still has yet to tell us why we can't have women doing altar serving. No, he told us. He said that it's because girls will become priests, or girls can't become priests. And he just assumes that we all agree that, like, this is how deep into their own bullshit they are. Like, they already assume that the audience is on board with the message, women should not be priests. Like, he just assumes that. He's like, yeah, you're on board, right? Like, you get that. You see, we're like this, right? Where we both think that we should discriminate against women in the workplace specifically for this one role. Right? No, that's stupid. There's no reason a woman can't do a priest's job. Here, let's look. Let's see the blasphemy here. Here, watch this. Ordain a lady. No, sorry. Nope. Boy, there's a lot of why the church doesn't allow it. The women fighting to be priests.
They were not.
I really thought I'd be able to pull something up. It's insane that there's actually not that much when it comes to female priests.
Not going to let me live out what God was asking.
La iglesia como institución ha denigrado de nosotras las mujeres. Mucho.
A woman who is ordained as a priest is automatically excommunicated.
La jerarquía de la iglesia
That's insane.
nos ve como un grupo
What's so
de
wrong with
mujeres
it?
enemigas y peligrosas.
The hierarchy of the church uses enemies, dangerous women. What she said.
Por eso nosotras no construimos
We don't have temples, we
templos.
care about
Esto
people.
nos interesa a la gente.
We walk with these women in their vocation, and they're waiting for the Vatican to open its doors and really confront its sins of sexism.
I just don't get it. Also, I don't know if I'm going to be copyrighted by the BBC, so I'm going to stop watching that now. But, like, I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense.
Them from the very conspicuous fact that we still have a male-only priesthood. Meanwhile, the cost here is significant. We're jeopardizing the availability of the sacraments by dismantling one of the best resources we had.
Why can't women perform sacraments? Just spell it out, man. Just spell it out.
For recruiting young men into the priesthood.
This
is abundantly, obviously at this point.
Oh, that's one of the people.
The only question is,
that's one of the people from Hades, right?
do we now have the courage to be countercultural by adopting a practice that non-Catholics, who seemingly have no interest in becoming Catholic anyways, will denounce us for? Can I ask you to stick around?
No thanks. There you go. If female priests are allowed to be a thing, then the church will fall apart. You heard him, ladies. Get out there. Go get ordained. Do us all a favor.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload. If you enjoy my content, you enjoy what I do, I really appreciate any financial help that I can get. Go to youtube.com/AlecGunterTTV/join. You got some awesome benefits, such as seeing early videos, awesome emotes that you can use in the comments of YouTube videos, and a sweet badge next to your name. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd really appreciate if you join. It is cheaper than the cost of a blowjob from your mom. So with all that being said, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.